After Jesus finished instructing his 12 disciples, he moved on to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. Meanwhile, John the Baptist languished in prison. The stone walls closed in around him, and the darkness weighed heavy on his soul. Through the small window of his cell, he caught snippets of news about the works of the Messiah, Jesus, his cousin, the one he had baptized in the Jordan River. The stories both comforted and confused him. John called 2 of his loyal disciples to his side. "Go to Jesus," he told them, his voice hoarse from disuse. "Ask him directly, 'Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?'" The disciples nodded solemnly and set out to find Jesus. They traveled through dusty roads and small villages until they found him surrounded by a crowd. Pushing their way through, they delivered John's question. Jesus looked at them with compassion in his eyes. Instead of answering immediately, he gestured to the people around him. The blind whose eyes now saw the brilliant blue sky, the lame who danced with joy on once crippled legs, the lepers whose skin had been restored to smoothness, the deaf who could now hear the laughter of children, and even those who had been raised from death itself. "Go back to John," Jesus said finally, "and report what you have seen and heard. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me." As John's disciples departed, Jesus turned to address the crowd about the man who had sent the messengers. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see?" he asked them. "A reed swayed by the wind? No? Then what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? Of course not. Those who wear fine clothes are in kings' palaces." The crowd murmured in agreement, remembering John's camel hair garments and leather belt. "So, what did you go out to see? A prophet?" Jesus' voice grew stronger. "Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. John is the one about whom it is written, 'I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you.'" Jesus' eyes scanned the faces before him, making sure they understood the significance of his words. "Truly I tell you, among those born of women there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he." From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to force, and forceful people have been seizing it. A few in the crowd exchanged confused glances, struggling to grasp his meaning. "All the prophets and the law prophesied until John," Jesus continued. "And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come." He paused, looking deeply at them. "Whoever has ears, let them hear." Jesus sighed, his shoulders dropping slightly as he considered how to help them understand. "To what can I compare this generation?" he asked. "They are like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling out to others. 'We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn.'" Some in the crowd shifted uncomfortably, recognizing themselves in his words. "For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, 'He has a demon.' The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.'" A sad smile crossed Jesus' face. "But wisdom is proved right by her deeds." Jesus' tone then changed, becoming stern as he thought of the towns where he had performed most of his miracles, yet the people had not repented. "Woe to you, Chorazin," he declared, his voice carrying across the crowd. "Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes." The few residents of those towns who were present hung their heads in shame. "But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum," he added, looking toward the direction of the town by the sea that had been his base, "will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you." The crowd fell silent, the weight of his words pressing down on them. Then, as if a weight had been lifted from his own shoulders, Jesus' face softened. He looked up toward the heavens, his expression changing to one of gratitude. "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth," he said, his voice warm with affection, "because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned, and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do." Jesus turned back to the crowd, his eyes filled with invitation. "All things have been committed to me by my Father," he explained. "No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him." Then, with arms outstretched in welcome, he offered words that would echo through the centuries to come. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The disciples watched as these words washed over the crowd like a cool breeze on a hot day. Many faces relaxed, some with tears streaming down their cheeks. They had come seeking healing for their bodies, but Jesus was offering something even more precious: rest for their weary souls.